Today we're going to be talking about rhythm, like always, obviously, but a little different than we have been. So, who has not been with us the last 2 weeks? Anybody? Okay, so we've been talking about rhythm, and so just to recap real quick, first week we talked about how God is our constant, right? And we used the example of a metronome. A metronome is something that is constant. It never changes, right? So when you listen to music, there's always a metronome that the drummer, whoever is playing, is listening to, and that directs what happens in. We talked about that being the metronome, and then we are the movement, right? However God created us to move, and the constant, us doing what God has called us to do, equals rhythm. That was kind of the concept, remember? And then last week, we continued the process and identified we need goals to accomplish what God has called us to, right? If you don't have any goals, how do you know you're going anywhere? How do you know you're doing what you're supposed to do? So we said we have 3 short-term goals as a youth that we're looking to get through this year. Sorry, I choked on my spit during worship. I don't know. Has anyone ever done that? I'm still recovering, so give me some grace. So 3 short-term goals, and they were to study the Word of God. That was goal number 1, was that this year we're going to really focus in and study the Word of God. Not just read the Word of God, but be able to study in my brain means is you can read something and then be able to know what it actually means, not just be words on a page, right? That was goal 1. Goal 2 was to find a mentor or a group of friends that you could process what you believe in the Bible, right? And then goal number 3 was to be able to focus in and actually understand what worship is, right? And then I had some long-term goals that was really just what we talk about all the time, is that we need to know Christ with the intentions of making him known, right? And my question last week is, what do you do when somebody says something that you don't believe in? How do you respond? Do you believe in God enough to be able to defend what you believe, or do you not? And if you don't, then how do I help you understand what you actually believe, right? Because if you can't teach somebody else what you believe, do you actually believe it? If somebody comes in and questions you and says, well, I've heard this about God, if you can't defend that, where do you actually stand with God? And that's what we're going to pick up tonight, is I want to be able to establish a rhythm with God and be able to figure out where do I actually stand with God. But before we do that, I'm excited to let you guys know that I've gotten a new car, okay? Yeah, you want to throw it up on the screen, Kimber? You want to see what it looks like? Maybe. Say what? There it is. Right there. Anyone know what that is? Yeah, that's a Lamborghini. Anyone know how much that cost? We'll get to it later. What if I told you? Why not? Why do you? Man, Allie drives the kids around. Why do you think this car's not mine? What's to say this car's not mine? Okay. Who here believes that I bought this car for 10 cents? Any takers? Yeah, I got a great deal on this car. So there you go. We'll come back to my Lamborghini later tonight. It's a real deal car. Got the car. Not a Hot Wheels car. Anywho, it'd be important later. We'll come back to the Lamborghini. So, yeah, well, we'll get there. The first question is, where do you stand with God? Simple question on the video. Where do you stand with God? And what I think that means is, first, we need to assess where you're at, right? To know where you stand, you're just assessing where you are and where you want to go, right? So back to my Lamborghini. I'm in my Lamborghini, and I'm trying to figure out where am I going to go now. So me and Lambo, I like to call him Lambo. Where are me and Lambo going to go, right? Simply, I just put it in my maps, right? And then it gives me step-by-step instructions to my destination, correct? Let's say I want to go to the mall. I put in the mall's address, and then me and Lambo just follow the directions. We get to the destination. That's how it works, right? And so the same thing applies in your life with your relationship with God, right? There's a set of rules that if you would just simply abide by them, if you simply follow the directions, you would get to the destination, right? And that's what the whole Old Testament is about, is if you could just follow these laws, then everything would be fine. Anyone know what laws I'm talking about? The 10 Commandments. Ever heard of them? Right? If you could simply just follow the directions, you could get where you want to go. Right? Simply. So let's look at them. You can find it in Deuteronomy 5, but I'm just going to, for the sake of time, just read them to you. You shall have no other gods before me. You should make no idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Honor your mother and father. You shall not murder, easy. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And then you shall not covet, right? So looking at that list, right? Frankly, there's more than 10 commandments in the Old Testament, but 10 is enough for me to find out that I am not doing a good enough job, right? In the example of the Lamborghini, if I just follow the directions, I get where I want. God gave me directions, why don't I just follow them? So if I compare my life to the 10 commandments, first off, it says, have you ever lied? Yeah, I have. Right there, right? So have you ever stolen something, even something small? Unfortunately, I have. Right? How about this? Honor your father and mother. Oops. Definitely messed that up a couple times, right? How about this? This is my favorite one. Don't want what others have. Man, that one's hard for me. I fall for that all the time. Other people have really nice stuff. You know I fell for that. See, you're coveting my Lambo already. But I know I'm not the only one, right? I think we all, if we put ourselves up to the definition of the 10 Commandments, we all can see that we fall short, correct? Right? Anyone never lied in here before? Okay. How about taking the Lord's name in vain? Swearing. Right? That's a hard one. Romans 3:23 defines where we all stand. It says, for everyone has sinned and we all fall short of the glorious standard. Right? What's the standard? 10 Commandments. We've all fallen short. But Jesus is about to define that it's not just how we believe or keep the law, it's about who we really are, right? So let's flip over to Matthew 5:17 and 18. It says here, don't misunderstand why I've come. This is Jesus talking. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writing of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. Anyone know what that means? What he's talking about is, I did not come to abolish the 10 Commandments. I didn't come to make all these rules go away. And so many times when you hear the gospel or you hear about Jesus, we always hear this cheap gospel of Jesus came to make everything easy, right? He's going to take away all my pain. He's going to take away all my rules where I don't have to follow any rules. And he says in verse 17, I've come not to abolish the law, but to accomplish it. And what that means is Jesus came to fulfill the law. It means he was going to come, he was going to live a perfect life, right? And then he was going to go die on the cross to create a way for us, right? But we're always sold that Jesus comes and he makes everything easy. We're going to look more into this. 10 Commandments was hard, right? Yeah? Okay. Matthew 5:20 says, right after this, it says, but I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of God. What that means is the Pharisees, we've all heard that before, the Pharisees loved the law. They loved the 10 Commandments because if they could simply follow these rules, which they thought they did, right, then they were right with God. If I could just follow the rules and do the right things, then me and God are okay. That's their stance. And Jesus is saying is, unless you're more righteous than them, well, those are the most righteous people I know because they keep the law. They're doing all the right things. He's saying you have to be more righteous than that. And the people that Jesus are talking to are saying, but what do you mean? He defines it. Matthew 5:21 says, you've heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you're subject to judgment. One of the 10 Commandments, right? I love how he starts this one. I'm like, Jesus, it's easy not to murder. I mean, just don't do it, right? I love laws. This is the simplest one to do, so I'm glad you started with that one, Jesus. Just don't murder. Got it. Not going to do it, right? I can abstain from murdering. And Jesus says, that's not enough. Verse 22, he says, but I say, even if you're angry with somebody, say, what? Jesus, I was cool with the whole not murdering somebody. That was easy. But Jesus says it's not just about following laws. He's saying, even if you're angry with someone, you're subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, done that before, you're in danger of being brought before the court. For if you curse someone, you're in danger of the fires of hell. You're telling me I'm going to go to hell, God, because I get angry at somebody? Man, I'm going to stop hanging out with everybody I know, because that's impossible. It's impossible not to get angry. He goes on in Matthew 27. It says, you've heard this commandment and say, you must not commit adultery. Again, one of the 10 commandments. Again, a pretty easy rule to follow. Just, don't commit adultery. Don't cheat on your wife. Don't be lustful. You're right. Super easy. But then Jesus complicates it. In verse 28, he says, but I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery in his heart. Jesus, you're making this law harder. It was already hard enough. Now you're saying already, don't commit adultery. That was hard. But now he's saying, if you look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery. Wow. I thought Jesus was supposed to come and make things easy. And then it goes on, and another one in 5:43 says, you've heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Easy. Anyone else good at that? So love the people you love and then hate the people that are mean to you. Yes. Easy law. So easy to follow. And Jesus says, yet again, I say, in verse 44, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Jesus, what are you doing to me? I was totally about these 10 commandments. If I could just follow these rules, I would be right with you. And a lot of them are easy. I haven't killed anybody. Brandon, nobody yet, right? Right? What Jesus is saying, is everyone kind of getting the point of where I'm going? We are not able to keep the law by ourselves. We will break every one of the commandments, no matter what, right? Jesus is saying these Pharisees think that they're righteous because they're keeping all the laws. They're doing all the right things. I've come to let you know that no matter how good you are, you can never keep to my standard, to God's standard, right? So again, I ask the question, according to all these things, where do you stand with God? Are you keeping all the commandments? Have you never been angry with somebody? I don't know. Next question in the video was, are you seeking truth? Anyone here know what truth is? Okay. Are you seeking it? That's the question. John 8:31 through 36 says this. It says, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teaching, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Okay, so if I know the truth will set me free. So my question is, are you seeking that truth that's going to set you free? My second follow-up question is, what is that truth? Anybody in here want to be free? Any takers? We just talked about all these laws that we're supposed to uphold to, and now Jesus says, if you know the truth, it has set you free. I'm like, wow, gosh, what's this truth? Okay? Verse 33, they start questioning Jesus on this, these Israelite people. They say, but we're descendants of Abraham. They say, we have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean? You will set me free. Again, as an American, I've never been a slave to anyone, Jesus, so what are you going to set me free from? Anyone ever been a slave in here? Right? They're saying the same thing. They're saying, Jesus, I'm good enough the way I am. I was born in the right family. My family was good. My family is rich. I've been slave to no one. Why do I need you? He goes on to explain it. That's what I love about Jesus. Nothing's hidden. He said, I will give you the truth. Jesus says, I tell you the truth. Okay, listen up. Whenever someone's telling me truth, I listen. He says, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. A slave is not a permanent member of the family, but a son is a part of the family forever. So if the Son sets you free, you are truly free. He clears things up. The truth will set you free. You are a sinner by design. Remember, we already said this. Romans 3:23. For everyone has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's where we start. No matter what family, no matter who you were raised in, we all have fallen short. Slave to what? Slave to sin. Right? Jesus says he's the one that will free us from our sin. We can do nothing to free ourselves from this sin. So that's right. Just believe in Jesus and all the things will go away and life will be perfect. That's what it says, right? easy. I'm done. The truth set me free. The truth is that I'm a sinner, and if I just become a son of God, everything will be easy, right? So many times that's the gospel we believe, and we stop there. Let's go a little further. Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." All. Come to me, all. I love the word all. It means everybody. It means no matter what burden you're carrying, no matter what, it says you can come to me. Doesn't matter what your struggle is, all. Then he says, weary and carry heavy burdens. Anyone know what those heavy burdens are? What he's saying is this, that heavy burden is that unbearable burden that we've been talking about that's due to us, that's sin. It's the burden of trying to upkeep the law, to try to keep those 10 commandments. He said, are you tired of trying to do this on your own? Are you tired of trying to live up to the perfect law that I've called you to the 10 commandments? Are you tired of doing that? It weighs on us. Are you tired of trying to just follow the rules? Are you trying to just make yourself look good? Are you being self-righteous? That's what he's saying. Are you tired of doing that? What do the 10 commandments do for you? I don't know. Let me tell you what the 10 commandments do for me. When I look at them, it says, don't be a liar. What the 10 commandments do is it makes me see in myself that Andrew by myself will never be good enough. There's nothing that I can do to make myself good. All my failures, everything that people have told about me, hey, Andrew, you're skinny, all these different things. Hey, Andrew, your dad didn't love you, right? That's my identity, right? That's what the 10 commandments did for me, was for me to be able to see that Andrew will never be enough because I'm a sinner and I've fallen short, right? That's what the 10 commandments. But he says, he doesn't just stop there. He doesn't say, come to me with these things. He says, and I will give you rest. So you're weary, you're tired, and I will give you rest. Anyone like rest in here? Yeah, me too. Sleep. The word rest could also be exchanged for the word relief. Okay? What he's saying is, you've been carrying this heavy burdens. Come to me, and I will give you relief. See, the bondage of the law is that no matter what you do, let's say there's a pile of bricks that stacks on forever. You spend your whole life trying to move those stacks of brick, trying to be good, trying to do the right things. You'll never, ever do enough to be good. Right? He's saying, I will give you rest from that. Good news. Right? He says, if you're heavy burdened, laden, come to me, I'll give you rest. Easy. Stops right there. Gospel again. Says, come to me, go to Jesus, all your problems go away. Right? Yeah? Okay, verse 29. Take up my yoke upon you. What? Jesus. It said, oh, come to me who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Yoke. Anyone know what a yoke is? A yoke is made for doing some more work. And I'm like, Jesus, I thought this was supposed to be easy. You say, come to me, you'll give me rest, but then the next verse says, take up my yoke? I'm like, what? So I made a little homemade yoke here for you, so you can see it if you don't know what it is. Boom. So what it is like this little yoke, right? And so you can put heavy stuff in it and carry it around. It's easier to carry, right? Beautiful, huh? So I could fill this up with rocks, and it'd be way easier to carry, and I still got my hands free than trying to carry the buckets. Make sense? So a yoke is supposed to help you, in essence, but it still requires work, right? Yes. It can, indeed. That's another great example. So another yoke is you can yoke 2 oxen together, right? Or horses, or whatever it is. And the fact of the matter is, it's a great example to use that one, because that's what Jesus is probably more referencing, is take up my yoke means he's going to be yoked with you, right? That's important. Remember that. We'll come back to that. It says, take up my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Right? So he said, you were heavy laden, working, not being able to do anything, not being able to get rest. He says, come to me, I will give you rest, but then take up my yoke, because my burden is light. Okay? How is Jesus' burden light? Anybody know? Right? We just read in Matthew 5 that actually what Jesus was saying was he actually made it harder. He was talking about murder is equate to anger. So how is that lighter? He's saying that God's standards have not changed. The law has not gone away. I'm not here to abolish the law. Right? But you no longer are just trying to be self-righteous. You're now yoked with me. Back to the example. Anyone who knows that there's two oxen that are yoked together, if one oxen is pulling harder than the other one doesn't have to work as hard. That's what he's talking about. Come be yoked with me, right? If you have a bigger horse or whatever that's yoked together, one's going to be doing more work than the other. So Jesus is saying, why is my burden light? Because I've taken your sin on me. You no longer are carrying around trying to figure out how to get out of sin. I've taken that upon me, right? That's the heavy burden. This burden that he's talking about is not being perfect. He's saying, don't come to me and be perfect. He says, I want to teach you. I want you to abide in me. A great example is Romans 7:21 through 25. I don't have it on the screens, but listen. It says, I have discovered this principle in life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do the wrong thing. I think most of us have the intentions to do the right thing, right? But inevitably, I do the wrong thing. I love God's law with all my heart, but there is another power within me that is at war with my mind. This power makes me a slave to sin that is still within me. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? Thank you. The answer is Jesus Christ, our Lord. You see how it is. In my mind, I really want to obey God's law, but with my sinful nature, I am a slave to sin. What he's saying is my intention is always to do right, but my sin nature stops me from doing that. So how do I fix that? By coming to Jesus, right? Jesus is talking about renewing your heart, not just about doing the right things. We talk about it all the time, about being transformed, knowing Christ, making him known. So my last question is, how does God see you? How does God see Andrew? I would say it depends on what yoke you're carrying. Are you out there with your own yoke, trying to carry your own sin, trying to make yourself look good, dependent on the fact that I'm doing good things, right? Are you yoked with Jesus, right? Are you dependent on him? Because I would say if you're yoked with Jesus, if you've come to Jesus, right, God sees you that way. He doesn't see you trying to carry your own self-righteousness. So back to my Lambo, right? Back to my Lambo, okay? So who thinks I bought this for 10 cents? That would be crazy, right? That would be such a good deal. Anyone know how much this Lambo cost? $4.5 million. Okay? This Lambo cost $4.5 million. $4.5 million. If I told you I got that for 10 cents, would you actually believe me? Okay? That would be like me saying that I can work my whole life and get to heaven by myself. You shouldn't believe that because it's not true, right? No matter how good a person I am, no matter how much good I do, right? No matter how good of a person I am, it would never equal the cost of my debt because my debt is sin and my sin is death. I deserve death, right? It's the same thing about this Lamborghini. I could work my whole life and it would be like 10 cents against $4.3 million. Does that make sense? My self-righteousness, me trying to work my whole life would be like 10 cents in God's eye because we talked about it last week, is I can never do enough to be good. And so that's where we're going to end tonight. I want you guys to have some time to self-reflect, and I got some things that I want you guys to do for the next 15 minutes. Okay? Sound good? Everyone still with me? No? Okay. So, on this table over here, I got a whole bunch of stuff because I know everyone's different. What we're going to do is, I'm big about making a point of where we're at so that way you know where you're going. Tonight, I want everyone to take some time. We're going to spread out, and there's different papers. So there's this paper if you need help to do what I'm asking you to do. It has questions, and you simply answer the questions, right? So that might be for somebody who doesn't like to not just know what they're doing. I have this second one that has the questions on top, but you have lots of space to write. Or if you're like, hey, Andrew, I know exactly what you're asking me to do. I have some blank paper over there, and you can just write on it. So 3 different options. And what you're doing is you're writing a letter to God tonight. My questions were, where do you stand with God? How do you think God sees you? And are you seeking truth? That's what I want you guys to write a letter to God saying, God, where am I? Where do I stand with you? And then everyone's going to get an envelope. You're simply going to write your letter to God, where you think you stand with God. Another question is, what's stopping you from moving further with God? You're going to write that stuff. You're going to put your name on the front of the envelope. You're going to seal it up. And I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to open it, do nothing. And then at the end of the year, we're going to open it back up, and we're going to see where God has taken you, where you've grown with God. Have you changed your relationship with God? Have you seen change in your life? Right?